Strange Studies of Strange Stories.
Well, thank heavens that yokel seemed to know the place, said Mr. Court to himself. First to the right, second to the left, black gates. I hope the oaf in Wendover who sent me 6 miles out of my way will freeze to death. It's not often like this in England. Cold as the penny in a dead man's eye. He'd barely reached the place before dusk. He let the car out over the rasping, frozen roads. First to the right must be this, second to the left must be this, and there were the black gates. He got out, swung them open, and drove cautiously up a narrow, twisting drive, his headlights peering suspiciously round the bends. Those hedges wanted clipping, he thought, and this lane would have to be re-metalled, full of holes. Nasty drive up on a bad night. Would cost some money, though. The car began to climb steeply and swing to the right, and presently the high hedges ended abruptly, and Mr. Court pulled up in front of Lawn Manor. He got out of the car, rubbed his hands, stamped his feet, and looked about him.
There is a chill in the air, as autumn is upon us. It's October! And nothing is more chilling than some ghostly tales of terror.
As chilling as a penny in a dead man's eye. That's a cool turn of phrase, and it was from the opening of Blind Man's Buff by H.R. Wakefield. It starts with a nasty drive on a bad night to a scary manor with black gates. That's just the kind of setup I like in a story, and it's just the kind of thing we like to talk about on Strange Studies of Strange Stories. I'm Chad Pfeiffer.
And I'm Chris Lackey.
We are here at strangestudies.com and Patreon. This is our free show for the month. If you want to accompany us on more journeys into haunted houses and haunted hearts this October, please consider subscribing. We've got more scary stories coming up for our patrons, and you'll also get full access to about 1,000 past shows.
Wow.
All devastatingly haunting.
Our reader this week is once again Greg Johnson, filmmaker, craft maker, and actor. Go right now, immediately, stop everything you're doing. Even if you're driving your car, pull over. Go look at his newest creator video that he's done. He has made a prop of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that functions, sort of. It's got a screen, it's got buttons, and it does all this great stuff. And he has made a short film of part of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy where he uses that prop. So he made a prop and then he decided he's going to just shoot the whole thing. Thank you, Greg.
Check it out. We'll link out in the show notes so you can see all of his brilliant creations there on his Patreon, where he creates videos of his costume and prop making process. If you don't go check it out, one of Greg's creations might come check you out.
Oh, God.
I know he's been creating life again. Dog boys, chicken lads. He's made a few snake ladies, and he's just letting them loose willy-nilly.
That's very irresponsible.
I asked him the other day, are you aware how many people have been, just talking about the snake ladies, right?
Yeah.
You know how many people have been squeezed to death by these snake ladies? So do you know how much chaos you're causing, Greg? He said, I know what it feels like to be God.
Fair point.
Yeah, he had me there.
Yeah.
So thank you, Greg. Let's get cracking on today's show.
We want October to be full of fright. So we thought we would write friend of the show, Ramsey Campbell, and ask him if there were some good Halloween season spooky yarns that he could recommend. Non-living authors only, of course.
He sent a list that was really good, but we had covered most of them, except he included a list of suggestions by author H.R. Wakefield, including this week's story, Blind Man's Buff, as well as next week's story, The Frontier Guards. At the recommendation of H.P. Lovecraft from his supernatural horror and literature essay, we covered Wakefield's story, The Red Lodge, back in 2014. And I remember really loving it. In fact, I think we'll re-air it this month as our classic episode.
Nice.
We never returned to Wakefield's work, and I think likely because it was difficult to find more of it free online. But thanks to the Internet Archive's excellent collection, we were able to track down all of the stories Ramsey so generously recommended.
And just to shout out, Ramsey has a couple of great books out right now. One is called An Echo of Children.
That is a new horror novel, a slow burn, chilling horror that I believe also revolves around a house as a source of peril for the family that has just moved in. Folks are really loving it.
Also, out by Ramsey, is a book called Six Stooges and Counting, and that's about the Three Stooges.
Yeah, we talked about the Three Stooges when we had Ramsey on the show, and we'll link out to our interview with him.
This week's story is called Blind Man's Buff by H.R. Wakefield. Yes, buff. Blind Man's Buff, sometimes called Blind Man's Bluff, is a game of tag where the person who is it is blindfolded. This game was played in ancient Greece and China during the Tang Dynasty.
And continued to be played all down through the years since those ancient times. The Wikipedia entry for the game shows a group of women playing Blind Man's Buff in 1803.
It's called Blind Man's Buff because the person who is it would be pushed or buffed at the start of the game, and if you're cheeky, during the game.
So buff was used in the sense of a small push, which is not really how the word is used these days. And that explains why the name of the game evolved into Blind Man's Bluff. Although buff does make more sense when you understand how it was being used.
Yeah.
When I first saw the title, Blind Man's Buff, I thought Ramsey made a spelling error in his email, or it was misprinted, or the story was about a blind person with six-pack abs. Like maybe the horror of the story was that this guy had the physique of a Mr. Universe, but could never see just how swole he really was, which is a tragic irony. But no, as you may imagine, it has more to do with being unable to see in a confusing circumstance. This is what Lovecraft said about Wakefield in his supernatural horror and literature essay. H.R. Wakefield, in his collections They Return at Evening and Others Who Return, manages now and then to achieve great heights of horror despite a vitiating air of sophistication. The most notable stories are The Red Lodge with its slimy, aqueous evil, He Cometh and He Passeth By, and He Shall Sing, The Cairn, Look Up There, Blind Man's Buff, and that bit of lurking millennial horror, The 17th Hole at Doncaster. I think it's hilarious that Lovecraft says he manages to achieve great heights of horror despite a vitiating air of sophistication, which means his level of sophistication is so high that it may lower the impact of what he's writing.
Yes.
But I had to look up vitiating. So Lovecraft is doing the same thing within that sentence.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's not even casual vocabulary for his era.
Yeah.
However, I do think for our third selection this month, we'll be drawing from that list of stories. Not sure which one yet.
We gave a bio on Wakefield on our earlier episode, but since that was 11 years ago, here is a refresher. Herbert Russell Wakefield was born in Kent, England in 1888. He served in the First World War, stationed in France and the Balkans. He eventually was promoted to the rank of captain. Wakefield worked as an editor for a book publisher. A lot of his stuff was originally published in original collections like those we named, but his stories were also frequently in Weird Tales. He died in 1964. This story was first published in Wakefield's collection, They Return at Evening. Ugh, that's a creepy name.
Yeah.
They Return at Who's they? Why are they coming back? They were here before? It's very unsettling.
We quote my mother all the time because once Heather was sick, and as the sun was dropping, she started feeling worse, and my mother goes, "Everything gets worse at night." She just said it really seriously. And she was talking about, when you have the flu or something, it does feel like it gets worse at night. But
all the
time we'll say to each other, everything gets worse at night.
It is really creepy.
I don't think these stories are overly sophisticated. In fact, I think they're just right. This one is only 4 or 5 pages long, today's story, and concerns a single incident happening to one person. I was tempted to pair it with another story because it is so short. But I don't know, it impacted me so much that I just wanted to dedicate a whole episode to it. We can get through the synopsis fairly quickly, so let's just get into it.
As we heard at the top, our protagonist is Mr. Court. Mr. Court is a would-be country squire. He's one of these rich guys that wants to escape the busy city life and settle in a huge manor house with lots of servants. Right away, we know he's a bit of a jerk because he refers to the guy who helped him with directions to find this place. He calls him a yokel.
Yeah, he throws around a couple of invectives. He's actually grateful to the yokel, who seems to have given him the right directions to this manor house. His real ire is directed at the oaf in Wendover, who gave him the first set of directions that got him lost. And I can understand being frustrated with people. This is his inner monologue, so you can be a little more ruthless with folks, I think, inside your head. I don't think he called that guy a yokel to his face.
No.
Excuse me, young yokel. Can you tell me how to get to the scary house? But he does think, I hope that oaf freezes to death.
Jeez, yeah.
Which seems a little strong.
Uh-huh.
And you do wonder, did the oaf give him the wrong directions, or maybe he just didn't follow them correctly and got lost all on his own?
That was my feeling.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know.
But it's a masterful way to start the story with him already trying to find his way and repeating directions to himself. First to the right, second to the left. It demonstrates that he is able to do that, that he's able to find a place based on directions and find his sense of direction. Yeah. So we know he's got that skill, but it also demonstrates what's going to be the main problem in the story. But in this opening, the protagonist is successful at working out how to find the place because some local yokel was able to push him in the right direction. He won't always have that help.
The yokel's directions get him to the manor house right as the sun is setting. It's called Lorne Manor, and it's very old. Part of it looks Georgian, while others are obviously from the time of Queen Anne. And that's actually pretty common around here in England with these old castles, because over hundreds of years, they've been added onto, modified, even modernized. I know it doesn't sound modern when it's in the mid-1800s, but
Sure.
I don't think it's actually been very long since groups like the National Trust here have been trying to preserve these places so that they keep their history. And any modifications that want to be made to these places to modernize them, they can't interfere with the structure of these places. So there's like rules. But in the 1800s, there was no such rules. You can do whatever the heck you wanted. And they did.
I think most homes have this kind of constant updating happening. Even in the place that I live, which was built in the 80s, it still has relics. There are phone jacks all over the place, right? Nobody's plugging those in anymore.
No.
And when you look around town, there are satellite dishes all over the place on the tops of people's homes that are not working. People have moved on to streaming services. Nobody's using satellite TV anymore, yet they just stay up there. One benefit, of course, is that you can use them as a compass because they're all pointing south. So you can always look up and say, okay, now I know which direction I'm going because of those relic satellite dishes. So they actually serve a different function now. But this place, of course, is a manor with more manor built onto it. Everything's old.
Yes. The house has a view of the Vale of Aylesbury, and it looks amazing as the sun sets over this place. Really sets a nice mood here. Court knows that he's going to have a hard time making it back, so he wants to just have a quick look at the place. He's a bit troubled because there's something off-putting about the manor, but he just doesn't know what it is exactly.
He thinks maybe it's because it's lonely and isolated, but there are other things going on. He says, big place, marvelous bargain at $7,000, can't understand it. How those windows with their little curved eyebrows seem to frown down on one. We know from our readings over the years that when a dwelling is being sold way under market,
Right.
probably some kind of monster or haunting inside.
Yes, absolutely.
And also this dark old house, as well as the hills surrounding it, seem to be scowling at him. The hills seem to have set in them great smoky eyes of flame where the last rays burned in them. It is like some dream world, thought Mr. Court. It is curious how, whenever the sun strikes, it seems to make an eye, and each one fixed on me. Those hills, even those windows. And then the eyes blinked and closed, and it was dark.
He takes out the keys and opens the door. Court walks in, and it's completely black inside, and the door closes behind him.
Very efficient one-sentence setup of the problem. When he walks into this pitch black manor, because that's what it is, he thinks, this, of course, must be the palatial paneled hall, which the agent described, so that the agent told him what he was going to be walking into, but of course he can't see it at all because it's so pitch black in here. He wants to strike a match or find the light switch. Says he fumbled in his pockets without success, and then he went through them again. He thought for a moment, I must have left them on the seat in the car. He decided, I'll go and fetch them. The door must be just behind me here.
He turns and gropes his way back to the door, and as he does, something brushes past him. And when he puts his hand out to see what the thing is, he finds a brocaded fabric chair. And I had to look up brocaded because I didn't know what that is. That's that fancy pattern shuttle woven fabric. It's very thick, and when you touch it, it's got a real nice texture to it. Is this a ghost chair? That's my first question.
A ghost chair?
Yeah.
Well, could be even worse. It could be a human chair.
Oh, well. Oh,
But no, I do think it's just a chair. That's funny because I looked it up too, brocaded. I had an idea of what it was, but I looked it up and then I just looked at chairs for a while. It was very soothing.
Yeah, they're really nice. They got the quality to it. I get it. He's in a nice chair. That's the one saving grace about this story.
He thinks, though. He can't really see it.
No, I can't say, but it must feel nice.
It must feel nice, yes.
He goes back the way that he came, but only finds a wall. So he returns to the chair, and then he goes another way, still a wall. Obviously, Court doesn't know the rule. Just follow the wall. It's like he's never been trapped in a pitch black maze before.
Yeah.
Obviously, something supernatural is going on here, and following the wall wouldn't work.
Right. I think eventually he does try that, but it's not his first instinct because he trusts in his own sense of direction.
Yes.
He knows that he only took a few steps past the door, so it should be right there.
Exactly.
But the anxiety ratchets up so quickly.
He moved to the left of the chair and walked into a wall, changed his direction, went back past the chair, and found the wall again. He went back to the chair, sat down, and went through his pockets again, more thoroughly and carefully this time. Well, there was nothing to get fussed about. He was bound to find the door sooner or later. Now, let him think. When he came in, he had gone straight forward 3 yards perhaps, but he couldn't have gone straight back because he'd stumbled into this chair. The door must be a little to the left or right of it. He'd try each in turn.
It's such a true beat here that he searches himself again for the matches. Like, he knows that he doesn't have them, but it's the beginning of panic, hoping that some kind of magical thing will happen. Oh, I did have them all along. You know, you keep checking the same place even though you know there's nothing there. And you know that he's starting to panic because he says to himself, oh, there's nothing to get fussed about, which means you are fussed, brother. You are fussed.
He's so fussed. Court tries to think about how he came in, and then he thinks he has it. Okay, I got it. But he ends up going down a corridor.
That's not good. You don't want to introduce new rooms into this equation.
He decides to go back and again finds the chair. He's feeling around, and then something slips past him, and he thinks maybe it's a bat. Maybe I told the story before. I went to the Chester Zoo. They've got a bat cave exhibit where you just walk in. You have to go in through these double door things, and there's just bats flying around. And it's really dark. You can barely see anything, and it's rad because you could feel bats whizzing past you.
Oh, man.
I loved it.
That's pretty scary. We might have talked about that. Didn't we do a Batman episode
We
about a guy?
probably did, yeah.
That might have been when we were talking about it because that was also an awesome story.
If you can find one of these bat caves, it is one of the coolest because those bats, they know what they're doing. They're not going to accidentally fly into you, and they're not interested in you.
Right.
There's really nothing to worry about. It's just so neat to have them in your space, and they just don't care, and you're kind of with the bats. I love it.
I would love that. But I would say that if I were in a dark place and I thought maybe a bat whizzed by me, I wouldn't be as casual about it as he is. Is this something that happened more often in the past? Because to me, I'd be worried there was a rabies going on.
Oh, sure.
Maybe it's mundane, but I'd worry about a Dracula. I'd go, is this a Dracula? And I'd get a little upset. So there's just simple, mundane things to be worried about in that situation.
That's true. But this guy, he's not having an awesome time.
No, he's not excited the way you were by this bat.
No, this is not fun for him. He says Rachel would laugh if she could see him, and I'm assuming Rachel is his wife.
Yeah, I hope he's not talking about your wife.
I hope not. That would be really weird.
That'd be really... Man, this story's got levels.
He thinks, I must have a stray match on me somewhere. Again, he's going back to this dry well, hoping that it's going to be there. So he methodically goes through all of his pockets. This bothered me. Do you lose stuff and you should know where it is? Does that happen to you?
Of course, yeah.
Your wallet or your phone. I just had it. I didn't move. I was standing right here. How could I have misplaced it? There's nothing to misplace it. Maybe this is a symptom of old age because I don't remember worrying about this when I was younger or having these kind of episodes. No.
I think it's always been that way. I remember seeing a comedian riffing on this when I was a kid, and the routine was something like, you ever walk into a room and not know why you came into the room?
Yeah.
And then you have to go back to the other room to figure out what it was that you wanted?
Yes.
You have to do a process of deduction to figure out what you were even doing. And I laughed so hard about that because it was totally relatable, and I was like 12 years old. So I know I was doing things like that even.
That's an element of being distracted and forgetting what you're doing. Whereas this is a more, maybe because I feel like I'm losing my faculties.
Right.
As I'm getting older and things aren't. I was on a trip with my kids. I did this stupid thing where I had the keys and they were in my coat pocket, but I didn't need the keys. So I was going, I don't need these keys. Couldn't find the keys. Packed up everything, couldn't find the keys, looking for them, calling people, called the guy at the place we're staying. I'm like, hey, I lost my keys. If you find them, please send them to me, like all this stuff. Come home, unpack, found the keys in my shoe because I put them in my shoe to go, I won't forget them. I'm going to keep them safe in my shoe.
Yeah. All the time I make that mistake with the phone where I go, okay, I'm putting it in this weird place, and I'll remember where it is because I put it in a weird place, which is terrible reasoning. Later
works.
I go, I don't remember what the weird place was. And actually with the phone in particular, I think that's one people spend a good portion of their day looking for their damn phone. But you know what? A long time ago, I decided I was only going to put it in a couple of places in the house because when we were young, there were no cell phones, and the phone was in the kitchen. There was a wall phone in the kitchen. So I put it in places where my wall phones used to be back in the 20th century. And that both helps me not use it and be able to find it because I literally, sometimes you'll say that you look at your phone while you're watching a movie.
Yes.
And that's always surprising to me because I got into this habit. It's in the kitchen.
That's
so
good.
If I want to use it, I have to get up and go to it. Cool story, bro.
No, it is. It's very relatable.
The point is that this is very relatable.
Yes.
And I only got glasses for the first time in the last few years.
Wow, yeah.
I got readers, and so I need them, but I don't always need them. So when I put them down,
right.
I have no idea. There's no place for them that I have always had. Mm-hmm. So much of my time is spent walking around the space looking for the phone or the glasses. It's the kind of problem that's a daily annoyance. But if you recontextualize that same issue, suddenly it's life-threatening. That's what's being pulled off here. I think about people getting lost while they're out on a hike or exploring the woods. Mm-hmm. Maybe they needed something and they set it down for a second and now they can't find it. And that happens all the time where people just get a little lost and then they die as a result.
Well, Julian Sands.
Exactly.
It's crazy and it's frightening. And yeah, you're absolutely correct.
I think there's a lesson in that for all the creative writers out there, that this is something to learn from. What is an experience you have that everybody might have that is frustrating, but not terrifying or anything? Yeah. It's just an annoyance. But if you just change the context enough, it becomes lethal.
Right.
Whether it's supernatural or not. And if you can find that, you've got something that's going to hook your reader in just the way this did, because I think that the horror in it is that it is so relatable.
Mm-hmm. Court finally accepts that he doesn't have any matches, but manages to maintain some cool. He takes another stab at feeling around the space, but he finds himself again in that corridor. And then something moves past his face. Keep it cool. It's just a bat or bats. Not some evil ghost monster thing. There's no such thing as an evil ghost monster thing.
You're inserting evil ghost monster thing. He doesn't even think that.
No,
he doesn't know what kind of story he's in.
A cold blast of air hits Court in the face and he says, "Is anybody there?" Purposefully not raising his voice. He's got to keep it cool. He goes back to the chair, really thinks about where the door should be and goes that way. And it's just a wall again. Mm-hmm. He curses the place to himself and then quickly admonishes himself for cursing it. And he says, a silly panic thing to do, he realized, almost as bad as shouting out loud.
His self-admonishment is also highly relatable. He whistled a little snatch resignedly. What an echo! The little tune had been flung back at him so fiercely, almost menacingly. Menacingly. That was just the feeble, panicky word a nervous person would use. Well, he'd go to the left again this time. He's getting so angry at himself, being highly self-critical. And we've talked about this recently, I think in August when we were talking about duality and how there's other versions of yourself.
Yeah.
Often the person I get the most mad at is my past self for doing something that's screwing me over now. You get so mad at that person who said, I won't forget this because it's a unique place I'm setting this down. Yeah. You idiot, when you're searching for it, it's you that is the antagonist. You're cursing your own self out.
Court is beginning to admit to himself that he can't get out. Mm-hmm. He goes to the chair and sits and thinks.
It says, well, it was obviously no use trying to find the door. He couldn't find it. Couldn't. He'd sit in the chair till the light came. He sat down. That to me was crazy because I think the sun was just going down when he entered.
Yeah.
Remember, it said, and then the eyes blinked and closed and it was dark. That was sunset. So if he's going to be waiting for the daylight to see in the space, that means he's going to be sitting in that chair in the pitch black for a full night.
Yeah.
For 8 hours or so, he's just going to be sitting there staring off into the dark.
Yeah.
No.
Probably more like 12 if it's cold.
Yeah, you're right.
It's very, very quiet and Court listens. It's almost as if he can hear people whispering to each other, but very far away. He thinks it must just be the sound of an old house because they make weird sounds. Court thinks that the door is only 3 or 4 yards from the chair. He is just being nutty. Come on, you just walked in. There's no way it can be any further than that. So he gets up with this renewed determination. Right after he stands, something brushes past his face.
Is anyone there? He said, and this time he knew he had shouted. Who touched me? Who's whispering? Where's that door? What a nervous fool he was to shout like that.
He goes back to the wall and finds an opening. The door! Wait, no, it's the corridor. This time, he runs back to the chair.
And it may seem repetitive. He goes into the corridor. No. Comes out, feels a bat. No. Goes to the chair. And this happens over and over, but he doesn't need to up the stakes because the fact that it's the same thing happening over and over is actually the thing that ups the stakes.
Yes.
That repetition.
It works. It really works in the story. But then we have a moment of revelation. Court remembers that he put a matchbook in his note case. And that I've been there, obviously.
That's the key in the shoe. He found the key in the shoe.
But when Court opens the note case, his hands are shaking so much that he drops the matchbook. God damn it! He feels around on the floor, but he can't find the book of matches. He can't find them.
And then something icy cold and damp was pressed against his forehead. He flung himself forward to seize it, but there was nothing there. And then he leapt to his feet and with tears streaming down his face cried, "Who is there? Save me! Save me!" And then he began to run round and round, his arms outstretched. At last he stumbled against something, the chair, and something touched him as it slipped past. And then he ran, screaming round the room, and suddenly his screams slashed back at him, for he was in a little, narrow passage. "Now, Mr. Runt," said the coroner, "you say you heard screaming coming from the direction of the manor. Why didn't you go to find out what was the matter?"
"None of us chaps goes to manor after sundown,"
said Mr. Runt. "Oh, I know there's some absurd superstition about the house, but you haven't answered the question. There were screams, obviously coming from someone who wanted help. Why didn't you go to see what was the matter, instead of running away?"
"None of us chaps goes to manor after sundown,"
said Mr. Runt. "Don't fence with the question. Let me remind you that the doctor said Mr. Court must have had a seizure of some kind, but that had help been quickly forthcoming, his life might have been saved. Do you mean to tell me that even if you had known this, you would still have acted in so cowardly a way?" Mr. Runt fixed his eyes on the ground and fingered his cap.
"None of us chaps goes to manor after sundown,"
he repeated.
And that's the end of the story. Really curious there, the shift into the epilogue with Mr. Runt. It happened mid-paragraph. That wasn't like there was, a page break and then it went into that. It just happens one sentence into the next. And then he ran screaming around the room, and suddenly his screams slashed back at him, for he was in a little narrow passage. "Now, Mr. Runt," said the coroner, right into it.
Yeah.
It's a jarring way to find out what happened, and it's used to great effect, the fact that he did that. It's a smash cut. This story was published in 1928, and that feels right in terms of the language. But Wakefield's work also feels very modern to me.
It does.
And again, Lovecraft saying he was maybe hurting his own effects with his sophistication, I find ironic, because this stuff is much easier to read than Lovecraft stuff.
Absolutely.
I read another of Wakefield's stories that we were maybe considering for this month, which we probably won't do, but I recommend reading it. It's called Ghost Hunt. Mm-hmm. And it plays like a found footage horror movie. It's written in the voice of a radio announcer who has brought a ghost investigator into a haunted house and is kind of doing the live broadcast. And this is a house where a ton of people have committed suicide after going into the house. Mm-hmm. And over the course of the narrative, again, we have the brush of the bat against the face maybe happening. There's a few elements from here that he recycles. But the announcer, the radio announcer, gets more and more despondent as it goes along, and eventually depressed, and then obviously throws himself from a window or something like that. So it felt like it was Quarantine or something. Like it had this found footage feel to it that was really cool. And I think it's been adapted to radio before. So you know what? I'll link out to that in the show notes, because I do have a link to an old 40s radio broadcast of Ghost Hunt. It's another scary thing that's worth listening to.
Hey, Chad, we're in the Halloween season right now, and I could really use some new music, but I just don't know what is out there.
Well, Pitch Black Manor has a new album, and I've probably already exhausted our listeners by talking about it for Bandcamp Friday, so you can go check it out. Mm-hmm. It's a Pitch Black Manor album, and it's as good, if not better, than this story. I don't know. That's a weird boast to make. Yeah, thank you for mentioning it. It was a fun album, and it was very weird because I didn't know that we'd be doing the story, but while we were discussing the album cover artwork, Lyle, the guitarist, said, "Hey, I like that artwork because it reminds me of that game, Blind Man's Bluff," which I've never really heard of before.
Yeah.
So he brought it up literally a half hour ago in email before we started working on this.
He didn't know we were doing the story.
He didn't know we were doing the story at all, so it was extra spooky.
Wow. Chills.
So please, folks, I'll put a link in the show notes to that as well.
This is proving to be a very chilling October.
We're going to be back next week when we're going to cover another haunted house story by Wakefield, which is called The Frontier Guards.
Yes.
I liked that one a lot as well. Again, it had a very simple effect in it, but was very effective.
I'd like to thank Greg Johnson for being an amazing reader as always. Please go to his YouTube page, check out his stuff. You will be delighted and thrilled. It's awesome. And this last video that he's done is just exceptional.
We will link out to his YouTube page as well as his Patreon where you can go support him. And also, I want to thank some of our patrons, speaking of Patreon. And I'm going to start by thanking Johannes Heller.
David Asmouth, thank you.
Zachary Stroop, thank you so much.
Kohei, thank you.
Ryan Davis, thank you.
Crawling Chaos. Oh, I know Crawling Chaos, thank you.
Benjamin Fraker, thank you so much.
Chris Moore, thank you very much.
John Andrus, thank you.
And lastly, I'd like to thank Mr. Splitfoot.
Good old Mr. Splitfoot. Thank you so much for supporting us here. And of course, we have our stakers to thank who make these free shows possible. And I'm going to thank them very quickly. I'd like to thank Ben A., Richard Wolf, Eric S. Vallone, MD, Angelina Brown, Kip Barnes, John Morgan, Christopher Rosser, It's a Ghost, Schmeil Khan, Alistair Brooks, Crypto Cartographer, and Bag of Weasels. I love me a good bag of weasels. You guys rule. Thank you so much for keeping the show alive.
And with that, I'm Chris Lackey.
I'm Chad Pfeiffer.
And you've been listening to Strange Studies of Strange Stories.
At strangestudies.com
and Patreon.
Strange Studies of Strange Stories.